Since 2009, I've participated in the Harley Owners Group's ABCs of Touring. Since it's been 4 years, I thought I'd go back and take a look at where I've been. 2009 and 2010, I primarily used the Nikon D80. It's a 10.2 megapixel DSLR. 2011 and 2012, I primarily used a Panasonic DMC TS2. It's a 14 megapixel rugged camera. 2009 will be the upper left picture. 2010 will be the upper right picture. 2011 will be the lower left picture. And 2012 will be the lower right picture. Here are the A's: Angleton, Texas; Alvin, Texas; Anderson, Indiana; Akron, Indiana. For the B's, have Beaumont, Texas; Brookside Village, Texas; Brownsburg, Indiana; and Brookston, Indiana. Clear Lake Shores, Texas; Clear Lake, South Dakota, I believe; Carmel, Indiana, and Carmel, Indiana. The Clear Lake, South Dakota was actually purely by chance. I needed fuel. I turned off of I-29. I came across a sign that said Clear Lake, and so I had to take a picture because theoretically I lived in Clear Lake at the time. However, Clear Lake had not been a city or a town or a village in many years, so to actually have a sign that said just Clear Lake, not Clear Lake Shores, was really nice. The Carmel City Hall on the left was on one of my PVC rides for 2011, and the Carmel on the right, again, was a PVC ride for 2012. Deweyville, Texas; Dickinson, Texas; Daleville, Indiana; and Daleville, Indiana. The Daleville on the right was below freezing and a PVC ride. El Largo, Texas; Edna, Texas; Edgewood, Indiana; Edgewood, Indiana. Freeport, Texas; Friendswood, Texas; Fifth, Illinois; Florida City, Florida; Galveston, Texas; Georgetown, Georgia; Gas City, Indiana; Grand Island, Nebraska. Galveston was one of the first places I ran into the issue of post offices that do not conform to post office standards. Or should I say the late 2000s model post office, where nowhere on the building does it say the name of the city. So I was stuck looking for a sign for Galveston. Georgetown was on my 35 state tour, and it was more of a catch simply because I needed equipment in the county. Of course, Grand Island, Nebraska was on my trip to Sturgis. Houston, Texas; Houston, Texas; Huntington, Indiana; Hillsville, Virginia. So the top two were the post office for my home in Houston. And Hillsville was on my trip taking my motorcycle from Indiana to Florida, skirting around a big superstorm Sandy. Ingram, Texas; Iowa Colony, Texas; Indianapolis, Indiana; and Indianapolis, Indiana. So Ingram was on my way to the Twisted Sisters, which was my first major ride to the west. The Indianapolis, Indiana post office you see here is the one I used to go to all the time for work. Jamaica Beach, Texas; Jamaica Beach, Texas; Jamestown, Indiana; and Jolietville, Indiana. The Jamaica Beach picture on the upper right, I had set up my camera because it's on a tripod. I had clicked down and started the 10-second countdown. I had slipped over to the side of the bike when I turned around, and what you can't tell is I am looking at an undercover police car that has its lights on. While I was setting up the camera, an undercover cop had pulled over behind me, probably to figure out what the hell I was doing. Joyville, Indiana was one of the first pictures that I took when I was taking my bike from Indiana to Florida. Yakima, Texas, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, Kirkland, Indiana, Key Largo, Florida. So this is kind of a very broad square of pictures. Kitty Hawk was one of those items where I was in the neighborhood visiting a friend and thought, might as well go out there, it's not that much further away. LaPorte, Texas, Lennon, Wisconsin, Lapel, Indiana, Lapel, Indiana, Fly Landing, Wisconsin. Well, really I needed this for Wisconsin. Missouri City, Texas, Maggieville, North Carolina, Muncie, Indiana, Monon, Indiana. Probably can tell by this point that this is the 35 state tour for Maggieville. Bike seen much prettier days. This is near Great Smoky National Park, and I had pulled in and parked my bike away from all the other bikes, and one of the guys said, "You must have actually ridden here." And I said, "Yeah, I came here from Texas via North Dakota, Canada, and Maine. And my bike definitely looked like it." Needville, Texas, Fort Kentucky, Noblesville, Indiana, Noblesville, Indiana. On my 35 state tour, Kentucky was one of those states that I only could dip into. I wasn't really on my way through or to in any way, shape, or form. All of the crossings were across the Ohio River. Not a great place to stop and take pictures. A year later, I found out Newport's one of the cool places to go, and I actually wound up going there a lot. Old Ocean, Texas. I think it's Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. I don't know how to say that really. Oxford, Indiana, and Oasis, Minnesota. So Old Ocean is a dead city, and the fact that the post office is still there, still operational, is pretty amazing. Kind of fun to go and find it and visit the area that is around there. The Oconomowoc, something like that city, again, is more of those. I was in the Milwaukee area, so why not? Asakis, again, God knows how to say it. This was one of those. I was on my grabbing North Dakota for 2012. I was going through Minnesota. I needed gas, so I pulled off to get gas, and I went, "Oh, it's a no city." He says, "So that's kind of what you're seeing here, is 3 interesting places." Pasadena, Texas, Pearland, Texas, Pendleton, Indiana, and Pendleton, Indiana. The last one is on one of my PBC rides for 2012. Quintana, Texas, Quincy, Indiana, Quincy, Michigan. So queues are always difficult no matter where you're going. For the Texas rides, Quintana was one of those points I built rides around. Basically, it's a little beyond Freeport, and so I would put it as a destination and pickup point between it and coming back. It's a very interesting little place to get to. Quincy, Indiana. So I spent, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes trying to find the post office. Really, really poor streets. There were people standing everywhere watching me go up and down these streets trying to find this place. Needless to say, I did not really want to go back in 2012, even though I knew where the actual post office was, so I could get in and out. Quincy on the right-hand side here, that was on my 663-mile PDC ride from 2012. It was 21 degrees at the time. Rosenberg, Texas, Richmond, Texas, Rochester, Indiana, Rochester, Indiana. Seabrook, Texas, Sugarland, Texas, Sheridan, Indiana, Sturgis, Michigan. So yes, in 2012 I went to Sturgis twice. Well, sort of. Texas City, Texas, Texas City, Texas, Thornton, Indiana, Travener, Florida. So the Texas City, Texas was one of my first experiences with people being really, really weird. As I was setting up my camera to take a picture, there was somebody that was coming from the right-hand side, and they were just completely irate, going, "What are you taking a picture of? Why are you taking a picture of? How long is it going to take you to take the picture?" Because obviously they did not want their picture taken in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So, yeah. Uvalde, Texas, Urbana, Illinois, and Urbana, Illinois. Urbana, on the other hand, this is the exact same location, and you can actually see that in the picture. But interestingly enough, they actually have updated their population between the two times I took the picture, which was only about a year apart, obviously. And the picture on the bottom right-hand side is one of the first pictures I took on my way to Sturgis. Benbrook, Texas, Victoria, Texas, Reedersburg, Indiana, Virginia Gardens, Florida. Webster, Texas, Westfield, Indiana. These are the signs I consider home, interestingly enough. They're all W's. So Webster, Texas, while I lived in Houston, Texas, I worked in Webster, Texas, and I live not that far from Webster, Texas. And the bottom two were PBC rides for 2011 and 2012 respective. Letter X. All of these are Xenia. There are very few letter X cities, towns, or villages in the United States. The two that I'm aware of are both generally in the area of Xenia. Yorktown, Texas, York, Pennsylvania, Yorktown, Indiana, and Yorktown, Indiana. York, Pennsylvania is basically the dealership that's not that far from the York manufacturing facility for Harley-Davidson. Zavala, Zionsville. Z's are also another letter that are difficult to come by, but not as difficult. So I've recorded 33 minutes of audio at this point, so this will probably be part one of who knows how many, and I'm sure I'll edit this down to maybe 8 minutes or so, we'll find out.